what kind of businesses are qualified for fractional sales consulting? What kind of companies need a fractional sales consultant? How do I go out there and sign a $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 a month fractional consulting deal? Well, after having made $195,000 in 5 months as a fractional sales consultant, closing deals for upwards of $200K before bonuses and upsides, I'm going to explain what types of businesses you should be looking for or keep an eye out for as you're progressing through your day-to-day that maybe you can strike a fractional consulting agreement with. Now, there's 3 main qualifiers you need to know, and if a business passes these 3 main qualifiers, it's just a matter of using your charm and your sales ability to be able to help them see the world the way that you do, for them to be comfortable writing you and handing you that check. And I'm telling you, it is not that hard to do. Ethan's been able to do it for $3,000 a month. Jack's been able to do it for $7,000 and even $10,000 a month. Andrea closed 3 people in 3 months at 2, 7, and 7.5% rev share, and that's before their bonuses. Daryl was able to do it and close a $5,000 a month. Chase was able to do it to close a $14,000 or a $7,000 a month. And so if all these guys can do it, then what's your excuse? And if you need help with this personally, well, if you click the link down below, there'll be a private guide or a private training explaining more on this video of how to go out to the market and get clients, and maybe you'll join us in the Elites of FSC. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So there are 3 main qualifiers a business needs to have to be able to qualify for a fractional sales consultant. Now, let me preface this with, companies are not inherently looking for fractional sales consultants. Businesses are not actively saying, you know what I need? A fractional consultant. And the reason for this is that fractional consulting is a developing market, but it is not a fully developed market. And one thing you must know about business is that companies learn different management doctrine, different management theories from different schools and academia, and it takes a while for industries to adapt to a place where some things become common practice. For example, fractional CROs and fractional CEOs is a new and emerging category, but if you were to go to Harvard Business School today, no part of their textbooks would talk about a fractional CEO and fractional CRO. It is companies that are startups and new age businesses that are realizing that there are better and more unique ways to solve their challenges that are looking for these types of talents and individuals. And I say that to say that the fractional sales consultant is not a fully defined job market or job description. But what companies often do look for is a sales director or a VP of sales or a team lead or a sales manager. Those are some of the labels and categories you want to look for, because those are companies that are at a place that they're facing the problems that someone who fits that job description could fix. And the reason why you want to look for those job descriptions is because to qualify as a fractional consultant or to qualify for a fractional consultant, a business needs to be aware of the fact that there are constraints in their sales process that someone else is more qualified to fix, and they have to be looking for a talented individual. However, where most businesses lack is that they think that just a sales manager will fix their problems, just a sales director will fix their problems, just a VP of sales will fix their problems, just a team lead will fix their problems. And the truth is that they won't. Most managers, VPs, directors, and team leads are really good at one thing, and that is just selling, and not all of the other skills that go around being effective at selling. And that is why we exist as fractional consultants, is you guys learn a little bit of marketing, you guys learn a little bit of funnel design, you guys learn how to coach and direct the founder. You're not falling into a job, rather you are leading a business through the growth portion of their sales piece. Now, what are the 3 main qualifiers a company must have? Well, the first one is that they must have sold $1 million or more of their specific product or service. And the reason being they have to have sold $1 million or more is because, well, if you're an entrepreneur watching this, or you're thinking to become an entrepreneur, as I'm going through the process right now, your first $1 million in selling one product will fundamentally change your business. Revenue number 10,000 versus 100,000 versus $250,000 to $1 million changes. Your ability to understand the business changes. Your ability to fulfill and get people results changes. And so you don't want to come into a company that's still developing these things. You want to come to a company that has a really good grip and understanding and knows that their only constraint is just to push scale. The second qualifier business must have is that they have to be able to sell more than 30 units of their product or service in a month. And the reason being is that if you're going to assemble a killer salesperson, you want them to be able to, if they so choose, to maximize their productivity and sell their product as much as they would like to. And most salespeople will struggle to sell more than a unit a day, and that's why I say 30 units in a month, because if a really good salesperson can sell 30 units, then they should be able to make a really good living. That's if the product is priced highly enough, which comes to the third qualifier, meaning the business needs to not only have more than $1 million in its sales, have the ability to fulfill on more than 30 clients in a month, but also needs needs to have a price point over $2,500. The reason why over $2,500 is that a 10% commission on $2,500 is $250. Multiply that times 30, and your salesperson, if they're living on 10%, is making a half decent income if they would like to just live and be an independent individual. Now, the second reason why the price point needs to be over $2,500 is because of cost to acquire a customer. In most industries, the cost to acquire a customer is very rarely under $1,000 for a high ticket product, meaning the price is $2,500 or more. So if you have a product at $2,500, take away $1,000 to acquire a customer that leaves you with $1,500 margin, take away $250 in commission to the salesperson, maybe $250 to give to the salesperson as commission. That leaves you with $1,250 in net operating or in margin that you can work with to fulfill on the product or service. Let's say the product costs you $500 or $250 to fulfill. Good, you made $1,000 profit. If you have an FSC as a fractional sales consultant takes 10%, then the business makes $900 profit for every unit that is sold. And if they're making $900 profit per every unit that's sold, they sell 30 units of those in a month, they're doing $30,000 profit in a month. That's not bad for one salesperson's productivity. Multiply that by 5 salespeople and they're doing way more. So that's how the numbers work out. And once you understand kind of the numbers and how that works, that's what you're selling to a business is an efficient way to sell their products profitably. Because what I just explained out there, $2,500 with a $900 margin when all is said and done is very good, is very, very good. For example, grocery stores sometimes work off of a 1 to 2% margin. Manufacturing facilities often work off of a 5 to 10% margin. Really good service companies might work on a 15-20% margin. So if you can have a $900 margin, that is not bad. And so some examples of companies that our students have worked with, or even myself have worked with, because this is where when I talk about those 3 qualifiers, you might be wondering, well, are these all info companies? Are these coaching? Are these agencies? The vast majority of them, yes. However, it is possible to take this outside of info. Like there was a client that I worked with one of our students, Chase, that was Fox Forestry. This was a business that was doing more or less $5 million a year in revenue. What they sold is industrial tree cutting equipment, services, and products. And so Chase was tasked for assembling a remote sales team around their $90 and $250,000 chainsaw mill. Now, the challenge that one of the things that they ran into is we didn't know these qualifiers back then is that they could only sell 5 of these in a month. Even still, if you sold 5 of them in a month, that's $500,000 in a month. But that was before there would be delays in the manufacturing process. However, it is an example, a case in point of where, not only could they only sell the equipment, they have all these other product lines and things that they could sell too. So that's an example of a business outside of info that you could use it for. Another company that I worked with, real estate direct mail company, I'm not going to name the name for confidentiality purposes, but they were selling those print flyers that you could put in the mail to people who might want to sell their home or do any sort of direct mail advertising. And this company is doing $800,000 to $1 million in a month. And they had a hybrid sales team, but when we really looked at it, 70% of the salesperson's time was spent doing renewals and customer success, 20% of their time was spent doing new sales calls, and 10% was spent doing admin and everything else. And so if all we did was take that salesperson's time and cut that down to spending 70% talking to new customers, the business would make more money. If we could get the renewal and upsell process into the hands of a dedicated customer success person, that frees up the time of the sales professional to be able to do what they do best, which is to close deals. So that's an example of a business that when properly optimized would not only have solid margins, but also have the ability to scale because they could sell as many units of this in a month as they would have liked to because they had their manufacturing and their fulfillment down. And so if you're considering becoming a fractional consultant, you want to keep your eyes out for businesses that once more meet those 3 qualifiers and be okay with businesses that are outside of the info coaching consulting industry. There are plenty of really good opportunities such as startups or tech solutions or even physical product solutions that can benefit from this type of sales process. And so if you're really curious on how to actually get the attention of potential business owners that you could have this conversation with to sell them, well, click the first link down below to get access, as I mentioned, to a guide explaining how to get clients under the radar without needing to quit your existing sales job. We'll break it down start to finish, everything that goes into getting your first fractional consulting client or your next consulting client without needing to trade your time for money working for them as a closer or just taking standard sales calls. And so with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.